Hello everyone and welcome back to Lucky Loaders 15, where I'll be giving you my 5 best bets for tomorrow's race in action. Now before we get into that, just want to do my quick recap first. I just want to apologise really for not giving you any winners today. We've been on a little bit of a dry spell the last few days. The only thing of note that we came out with any profit with was our long shot with Places de Vosges for Mark Fahey and Gavin Ryan. Flew home like a train inside the last furlong, advertised at 12-1 last night, so you would have got a healthy return out of that. And even if you didn't get on the double figure prices, I still think it went off at 7-1. So if you did back it each way, you would have got a small bit back. But yeah, away from that, our next best, Norab, no complaints about him. He ran a solid race to finish in second place, but he was just done by Bernard Llewellyn's other runner, Earthly, in the last furlong. You know, he had every chance to win, but just wasn't good enough on the day. And then our nap, Burton Wood, just got going too late, was starting to find quite a bit in the final furlong, but had too much work to do, and hey ho, that's the way it goes sometimes, you know. It's just horse racing, and that was quite frustrating because she had been, or this horse had been, fairly prominent in the market all day. You know, it hadn't drifted, the market support was still there for it. And yeah, it was just one of those things, unfortunately, that sometimes in racing it happens. You know, horses are out the back and they just get going too late. Our lay of the day, we couldn't have been more wrong about that. Solo Saxophone, that brings our little streak to the end, but we're still doing all right for the month of June. So yeah, Solo Saxophone, you know, he was very impressive for Ben Haslam. I thought it was too much of a competitive race for him to be siding with a price that short. I think he was 11-10, and the market didn't drift for him. He was still well supported, but I just thought the race at Thirsk that he won wasn't up to much, and this was a bit more of a deeper race with some dangers lurking in there. But no, none of them really presented any danger to Solo Saxophone, and he won very impressively, and he was able to defy top weight as well. Be interesting to see what the handicapper does next, and maybe Ben Haslam, who knows, will be targeting him at races, maybe like the Cesarovic, a race like that later in the year. You know, he could definitely run a big race in one of these long distance day-in handicaps. You know, he could definitely land one of those hot pots. But yeah, couldn't have been more wrong about Solo Saxophone. And then Boomer as well, our other tip of the day, you know, for Tom Dascombe and Richard Kingscote. What can I say, maybe was a little bit keen too early, but she's not really delivering her juvenile form from last year. But you could argue that actually maybe her juvenile form isn't that good. You know, like obviously she was beaten by Quadrilateral in the Fillies Mile. Has Quadrilateral done much to enhance the form? Not really, not as a 3-year-old yet. Anyway, it's been a bit of a strange year, but Boomer, you know, she's not really showing the form she did as a 2-year-old, and sometimes I think we can overlook that. I often make the case with Pinatubo. Like, obviously, I didn't think he would be good as I've always said that he wouldn't have won the Guineas, and I was right about that. And I've always been one of those people that say that horses from 2 to 3, they don't always train on, and I normally think actually the majority of horses don't train on as effectively as what some people just assume that they do. A lot of these horses that do really well, win a lot of the group contests as 2-year-olds, you look at them later on down the line in their 3- and 4-year-old careers, they're not the same. It's normally the horses that were lightly raced, normally the horses that we're seeing running in the autumn maidens, these kind of races, probably any time from around about August, or were only raced once or twice as a 2-year-old. They're the ones that normally are always going to make better 3-year-olds, in my opinion, and come to the fore in these top races. And I think Boomer's just got that classic case of where she's not quite as good as she was at 2. It's a bit like puberty, really. You get some people that go for it quicker than others, and it's the same for horses, you know. And yeah, she was very keen early on, but I thought today in Calmer Waters in a listed race she would be a lot better. She might still be able to land a listed race later on this season, but I don't think she'll be winning a group race anytime soon. But yeah, that's what happened with Boomer, and she was very disappointing. But hopefully we can turn that around tomorrow. It's been a bit disappointing of late, but hopefully we can end June on a high. But we are still up in profit for the month, and hopefully, like I say, with the good weekend action coming up with the Irish Derby, some group races as well, the likes of Newmarket, Windsor's got a listed race, there's some nice racing at the weekend. hopefully, fingers crossed, we can go into the end of June in better form. But it's all going to start for us with my next best tomorrow in the 150 at Doncaster with a horse called Jaameh. For William Haggis and Dane O'Neill, currently 4-1 at the time of recording. William Haggis is in good form at the moment. He's operating at 23% strike rate, and this horse was really eye-catching, I thought, on her last run. She actually finished 6th at Lingfield, which doesn't sound that good over 5 furlongs, but the form's already taken a boost. It's thrown up a couple of winners that finish ahead of her, so that's good. But she's going up quite considerably in trip tomorrow to 7 furlongs. That's going to suit massively. She's by Dubawi, and Dubawi's not really known for producing 5 furlong sprinters, you know. So going up in trip looks a good move. And she wasn't hard knocked by Jim Crowley last time out at Lingfield, you know. She was only asked once, I think, under the whip, and it was just a hands and heels ride. And in the last furlong, she did make up quite a lot of ground. And you like to think off a mark of 63 with the powerful connections of Sheikh Hamdan Al Maktoum, William Haggis, you know, in a race of this nature, she can be really competitive off that mark. And I think she's definitely going to be one to keep on side for tomorrow. And at 4-1, I think that represents good value. I've seen her shortening up with a few firms, but if you still can get the 4-1 or maybe 7-2, 10-3, if the 4-1's gone after the time of recording this, I still think that represents good value, and I think she will go a favourite for this race tomorrow. So my vibes are quite sweet on this one tomorrow, and fingers crossed she can get us off to a winning start. We then go to the 2:45 at Newmarket for my extra tip with a horse called Wedding Date. 7-1 with bookmakers at the moment at the current time of recording. Going to recommend an each way bet here for Thor Hammer Hansen and Richard Hannon. Thor Hammer Hansen is able to claim a handy £5, so that's going to help this horse's cause tomorrow. But this horse returned to a bit of form last time out by finishing 2nd at Windsor behind Mick Shannon as chairman of the board. And I think in the context of this race, that's probably the strongest, most piece of recent form on offer. And I thought she stuck to her task really nicely. She's off a mark of 83 now, but with the £5 claim of Thor Hammer Hansen, that's going to be in a sense 78. So I think that's definitely very well treated in this race for Wedding Date. And if you actually look at some of her form last year, she won a race off a mark of 86 with Thor Hammer Hansen aboard. So the jockey knows the horse well, in the colours of Midland Park Racing. And she's a previous course winner as well. Not all horses handle Newmarket, especially with the dip towards the furlong, the final furlong, where sometimes horses, they can get stuck in the dip or they can come flying out. It's a bit of a course specialist course I normally find sometimes at Newmarket down the Rolly Mile. But yeah, for me, Wedding Date 7-1, I think that represents good value, and I think she's definitely going to be a lot shorter come post time. So that's going to be my tip there. We then go my next best in the 3:45 at Newmarket with Vial of Wolves for James Doyle and Jim Boyle. Again, a bit of rhyme there. Currently 15.08 available at the moment, best price at the time of recording. And this horse I thought ran an encouraging reappearance race when he finished 2nd at Newbury behind a fair horse for David Menuzier, who is a trainer I've got a lot of time for. And when you go back through this horse's form last season, was fairly consistent. Only won once at Epsom, but he finished 2nd quite a few times. But this race, in the grand scheme of things, looks very weak. There'll be a lot of horses needing the run, looking fairly exposed, where I think Isle of Wolves, he might not have much more improvement to come, but in a race of this nature with his consistency, I think he's a sure to win. I'm really confident on his chances tomorrow, and I think 15-8 represents good value. I know the George Bowie runner might attract a little bit of market support because he's done very well, George Bowie, since becoming a trainer, and he's put William Buick as well. But that horse needs to prove its stamina. Never raced this far before, and I just think with Isle of Wolves' experience, connections have found him a good race to get his head in front, and I think he's the one they've all got to beat, and I think he'll win tomorrow. We then go with my long shot tomorrow. Bit of a flyer here in the 3:55 at Doncaster. I'm going to take a chance on Big Country at 20-1 each way for Jamie Osborne and Dougie Costello in the Melbourne Tan colours. Now this horse is now down to a handicap mark of 92, which is a good standard, but what he's been running in the last couple of years, this should be one of the most easiest races he's raced in quite a while. Obviously, he was out in Maidan where he didn't show too much. He showed a little bit of form in a couple of races, but nothing to write home about. But this handicap tomorrow, even though there's a few nice horses in this that could still be improving, big country, you know. At the St Ledger meeting last year, he finished third behind Fox Tal off a mark of 106. So he's now £14 lower compared to when he was running in that conditions race, I think it was, at Doncaster at the St Ledger meeting last year, when he didn't disgrace himself at all. He used to be a very solid contender in Group 3s, top handicaps, listed races, you know. He was rated in the low 100s and now down to a mark of 92. Even though he is getting on a little bit now, you like to think he's still got a race in him of this nature. And at 20 to 1, I just think that's a massive price. He could either run really well or he could blow out, you know. It's one of those kind of tips, you know. But I just thought a 20 to 1 out there, if you're looking for a bit of a fun bet, this would be a small stakes bet each way, but 20 to 1 with a horse that's extremely well handicapped off a mark of 92. If you go back through some of his form last year, where even though he wasn't winning, you know, he was still running into a mark of a low 100s horse, you know, so he was definitely still showing some ability last year. And at 20 to 1, I think he's just worth a fun, small each way bet, and hopefully he can give us a good run for our money. We then go with our lay of the day, which is in the final race at Newmarket in the 450 with Fox Vardy for Sylvester de Souza and Martin Mead. Now this will attract the money because of the King Power connections, former champion jockey, fairly decent trainer in Martin Mead, but this horse is an absolute basket case and is making a seasonal reappearance tomorrow. It was actually declared like about a week or so ago, but then got withdrawn down at the stalls. He's a horse that always attracts plenty of money. He's actually been favourite. He was favourite last year on 3 of his 5 starts, and he only won 1 race. And the other times he raced, he was appalling. You know, he never really showed much. But he has been gelded, which sometimes if they're a bit of a nutcase, you know, that's a good thing to geld a horse. Like Lord North apparently was a nutcase until they gelded him, and look at what he's doing now. But Fox Vardy, even though yes he is rated off 83 and it might look a lenient mark, Martin Mead, that he's a hard trainer to get right. This horse is currently 2.94 on the Betfair exchange today, and in a race where you've got the likes of a horse, I can't pronounce it, Chauffeur, I think that's how you pronounce it, for William Haggis. You've got Stamford Raffles, who can sometimes throw the odds of prize for Jane Chapel-Hyam, Gas Monkey. You know, there's some fairly decent horses in this race that could easily have their day, you know, and beat this Fox Vardy. And in some places, with a normal bookmaker, he's short as 5 to 4. Do you really want to be steaming in with a horse that's disappointed more often than not during his career? And even though he's been gelded, and he might look potentially well handicapped off a mark of 83, I just think this is a horse that, God, like, you've got to have a real big hope really and you've got to be a really big forgiver to take a chance on Fox Vardy tomorrow at the prices. I'm really not sweet on him at all. I remember putting him up last season, you know. I think I actually did put him up when he won, believe it or not. But I did side with him a couple of times after that. And yeah, he definitely didn't make my shortlist for future races, and he's not going to make my shortlist to back in future unless he starts to show completely different signs to what he's been shown out in the race course in the last year or so. He's really got to do a U-turn in his career. But Fox Vardy, I think he's a good lay job tomorrow, and that's why he is going to be my lay of the day. So they're the 5 best bets for tomorrow's race in action. In the 150 at Doncaster, we go with Jaameh, my next best at 4 to 1, win only. 245 Newmarket, wedding date at 7 to 1 each way. We then go with my nap in the 345 at Newmarket, Isle of Wolves 15 to 8 for Jim Boyle and James Doyle, my nap. And then we then go to the 355 at Doncaster for my long shot, Big Country 20 to 1 each way for Jamie Osborne. And then my lay of the day comes in the 450 at Newmarket with Fox Vardy, just lay for the win at 2.94 on Betfair. So yep, they're my 5 best bets for tomorrow's horse racing action. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos. You can also follow me on Twitter as well, where my handle is at LuckyLoader15. And if you want to check out my website as well, you can do for a full portfolio of my work, which is www.chrisloaderracing.com. But that's all I got to say. So please gamble responsibly. Hopefully we can have some winners tomorrow, and we'll be seeing you soon.